start by saying how grateful that I am to the majority of the citizens in Arizona that voted no on Prop 205 and cared more about the future of our kids than a few people making money and people getting high. So my hat off to those people in Arizona that voted no on Prop 205. I want to start by saying that I know, I'm going to switch the slide, that I know that, in our wonderful 50 states, United States of America, that each state is very unique. And the fight that I was a part of in Arizona is a lot different than other people that are fighting each day against legalized marijuana. And I just want to kind of set the stage and let you know a little bit about what we were up against in Arizona. We are a state that has voter initiatives, and I'm curious, how many people have voter initiatives in their state? There are people, okay, so not a lot, okay. So in the state of Arizona, we have a law that says people can collect signatures, and if they get enough signatures, we're going to put something on our ballot to vote on. Okay, so in 2016, legalized recreational marijuana was brought to Arizona by the Marijuana Policy Project, just like they did all of the other places that there was the voter initiative. And they spent almost $1.8 million in Arizona to get it on the ballot, okay? And they decided, they were very smart, they thought, we're going to partner with the medical marijuana industry because they knew if they did that, they were going to even have more support. So, and Governor Ducey talked about this morning, that our initiative was 30 pages in 8-point font, and there were all sorts of great things that would happen to the medical marijuana industry. Number one being that if we would have passed Prop 205, right afterwards they could start selling legalized recreational marijuana out of the medical marijuana dispensaries. So that's why they were very much in favor of Prop 205 passing. So we have 15 different counties in Arizona, and the reason I want to show you this is that we had actually 13 of the 15 counties that did vote no on Prop 205. And I'm actually going to focus in on the 2 counties that voted in favor by not a real large margin, but did vote in favor of Prop 205, because I think what's important for you to realize is I believe that the narrow margin in those 2 counties is why we actually won. Because in 2010, the Marijuana Policy Project brought medical marijuana to Arizona, and we only passed by 4,000 votes. But in Pima County, where Tucson is, it's a more progressive county in Arizona, the margin was about 43,000 votes. And even though almost every other county voted against medical marijuana, we could not, overcome that 43,000 vote margin in Pima County. So I'm really excited to put this up here and to show you that we only lost by 10,000 votes in Pima County, which was a great win for us, again, because we worked extremely hard in those counties that were more progressive. I'll tell you later as I go forward some of the things that happened in Pima County for this not to be as big of a margin as medical marijuana. We didn't have the margin that Tony did in Ohio, but we won by 51.3% to 48.7% of the votes. It was about a margin of 67,000 votes. And so what I want to do today is tell you what I believe are the top 5 reasons that we did win in Arizona, and then some lessons that we learned. But before I go to those 5 reasons, I just want to say a huge thank you to Sam, to Kevin, to Jeff, to Tony. Kevin has been with us the whole time, and all of them have made multiple trips out to Arizona and have been such great partners to us, and that definitely is one of the reasons that Arizona was successful. And I just have to give my hats off to Governor Ducey. You guys got to hear him this morning, but what a wonderful champion for Arizona, and we truly know that he's a large reason why we were successful. So the number 1 reason why I believe that we won is that we started early, and our goal was to make Arizona a hard target. And I want to say this to each and every one here, because I have a rule: when I go to a conference, I have to go back with actual action steps of things that I'm going to do when I return back home. I figure, as a prevention coalition, we put money into that trip. And so this is something that all of you can learn, is that you have to start early. You've been hearing this over and over today about the marijuana middle, and that most people don't know the facts that we know about the increased potency and the edibles and all of these things, dabbing and all of these things that we know about marijuana. And so I'm going to tell you the story. In 2010, when medical marijuana passed, we knew, I'm from the county of Yavapai County, which is Sedona and Prescott, and some beautiful communities. About 211,000 people live in Yavapai County. And we had worked extremely hard to educate people what was in our medical marijuana initiative. And in our county, we had pretty much a landslide victory against medical marijuana. It was about 60-40. But the lesson that we learned after, in our county being successful, but not being able to be successful in the whole state, is that we needed to have a campaign for the entire state to educate people on the true harms of marijuana. And so what we did is we developed a campaign called Marijuana Harmless, Think Again. And I'll tell you another reason that we developed this campaign is we always look at statistical data. And just like Kevin said this morning, in our county, we've had a 20% increase of youth using marijuana. And the perception of risk is simply not there. Over 70% of our kids don't see any risk in using marijuana. And those are very alarming statistics to us. So we developed this campaign called Marijuana Harmless, Think Again, and we did this back in 2012. And we decided that we didn't want to just use this campaign in isolation as a community coalition in Yavapai County. We wanted to make everything that we did available to all of the coalitions across the state. So we did multiple trainings with what we called toolkits, with all of the materials we developed. We developed TV commercials, we developed radio commercials, we developed fact sheets, we developed a curriculum for youth. Every single thing that we developed, we were willing to share. And we actually even got Kevin to come out again and to do a SAM boot camp with leaders of the Prevention Coalition. So again, people from around our state could use this campaign. We developed a website that's marijuanaharmlessthinkagain.org. There's lots of great materials on the website. We started getting people to sign up to receive our newsletter. We have a mailing list of over 4,000 people, and when Sue Rushi or SAM or CADCA or other places send out great information, we disperse it to all of the partners of our campaign in this newsletter that goes out, sharing, again, the true harms of marijuana, the new studies that are coming out, what's happening in the states that have legalized. And then we got some money to run a statewide campaign to do billboards. We put up over 40 billboards around the state in prominent locations, on I-17 that goes through Phoenix, on I-40 that goes through Flagstaff, just all sorts of billboards. And this was one of them. We did focus groups to find out what were the messages that had the most impact. This one, my favorite one, I should have showed this picture, but we have this particular billboard above a medical marijuana dispensary. It was wonderful. But showing that regular long-term pot use will lower IQ. This is another billboard that we did showing about the risk of a young child getting a hold of a cookie that could possibly have marijuana in it. The wonderful thing about these billboards is that the pro-marijuana people hated these billboards. And we got a lot of earned media because they called the media, the TV stations, and we were on multiple statewide TV news programs talking about our billboards because of them complaining, so that was wonderful too. And then the other thing we did, and this started in 2014, we started doing a statewide campaign called Marijuana, the Science and the Experiment. And I want to give my hats off to Dawn Mertz, who's in the audience. She's the director of the Arizona HIDA. They partnered with us on these conferences. And what we did at these conferences is we had scientists like Dr. Madeline Meyer, who actually oversaw the IQ study, Dr. Christine Miller, Dr. Christian Thurstone, that talked about the true science. And then we had people that came like Joe McGuire and Tom Gorman and Jim Gerhardt that talked about what was happening in states that have legalized. The first year that we did a conference, we were in a location that fit 100 people. The next year we moved to a place that were about 330. We were overcrowded. The last time that we did the conference, we had 438 people that were there, so it was a great way to educate. We always did a call to action in the afternoon so that people left knowing that we were expecting them, again, to share the information and to do other things to help us get the message out there. The number 2 reason why we won, and we learned this one from Tony, my political career was running for student council in high school and dorm president in college, okay? So I'm not a political person. But we realized that we needed to go beyond prevention coalitions and become a political action committee. And so in 2015, Sheila Polk, who is my boss, she's the chair of the coalition that I work for and the county attorney, her and I recruited Sally Schindel, who Kevin talked about earlier, that her son actually committed suicide because of his marijuana addiction, and Seth Leibson, who is a radio talk show host in Phoenix. And the 4 of us formed a political action committee called Arizonans for Responsible Drug Policy. And then again, we realized that we needed to have the experts helping us to fight this campaign. And so we started doing interviews with PR firms. And we selected a PR firm called Axiom to take the lead in the political fight. The next thing, and the reason you guys have seen this, and my numbers are even higher, I'll show you next, than Kevin's were on his slide this morning, but we knew we couldn't do this without raising money. And again, I mean, some of my coalition members gave money. You know, I could have raised maybe 10, 20,000, but that wasn't anywhere near what we needed. So we hired a professional fundraising firm, and we formed a professional fundraising committee. And if you look at this list of names, if you're from Arizona, you're going to recognize these names, but just so that everyone kind of realized the magnitude, the very first name, Michael Bidwell, is the owner of the Arizona Cardinals. And so what happened is these professional fundraisers had the contacts of the people that could give us large donations, and we were very successful in raising money. Here's a list. We actually raised almost $6.2 million for our campaign. Some of our very large contributions, one, Discount Tires, gave $1 million. Please go buy tires from Discount Tires. We were very grateful. The Arizona Chamber of Commerce, you guys have heard about what a great partner they were for us. Again, you can look through the list, a combination of businesses and people that had, you know, were independently wealthy that gave us substantial donations. Opposed to the other side, there it is, the Marijuana Policy Project, and if you go down this list, that's the medical marijuana dispensary owners and their attorneys, and that's where they raise their money. The fourth reason that we were successful, and Governor Ducey talked about this morning, is that we had a very widespread list of endorsements and partnerships. And going down this list, law enforcement, we had pretty much every major law enforcement agency that came out against Proposition 205. Elected officials, we put together a list of local elected officials, so from city councils, town councils, county commissioners, and then legislators, and then other elected officials, of course, like our governor and Secretary of State, people like that came out publicly and said that they were against Prop 205. It was a very impressive list of many, many names that were against it. We also had the faith-based community. This was huge for us in Arizona. We got the Catholic Diocese to come out against Prop 205. We got the Mormon Church to send out a letter to their members. We got an organization called Center for Arizona Policy, which is a faith-based organization that did all sorts of work. We held forums just for pastors. Governor Ducey mentioned that we actually produced a video that a lot of the mega churches showed on Sunday about Prop 205. The faith-based community was huge for us winning in Arizona. The business community, again, the Arizona Chamber of Commerce, we got multiple individual city chambers of commerce to come out, major employers, APS, a lot of other ones came out against Prop 205. Educators, that was a little bit more of a tough sell, but we did get the county superintendents to come out against Prop 205. And the Republican Party officially came out against Prop 205. Somebody earlier asked about the medical community. We did get the Arizona Hospital Association and the Arizona Pediatrics Association to come out against Prop 205. And I also want to bring up, somebody mentioned the media, the Arizona Republic. I'm very thankful that Jim Gerhardt from Colorado came and sat down with the editorial board of the Arizona Republic and talked about what was happening in Colorado, and they officially came out against Prop 205. This was a huge reason why we won, and we started getting these endorsements very early. Even before legalization was on our ballot, we had what we called a resolution opposing the legalization of marijuana, and we went statewide to multiple different city councils, school boards, and asked them to adopt the resolution. So it's again something you don't need to wait until it's on your ballot. Get people to come out officially against legalization. We did a coalition building conference. This was invitation only. Monty Stiles from Idaho and actually Tony came and spoke at this conference, and so we had some great information in the morning. And in the afternoon, what we did is we broke into sectors and we talked about what we're going to do as individual sectors to defeat legalization, and some great strategies came from that also. The number 5 reason is that we came up with the correct messaging, and I learned this from Tony earlier too. You know, as a prevention person, I think I can convince people of the terrible harms. But you know what I think doesn't always translate into what the citizens of Arizona. We did 3 focus groups. groups. And I'll tell you what, it was one of the most interesting experiences I've ever had in my life, sitting behind the glass during a focus group. We had actually Frank Lutz came and did one of our focus groups, but I have to tell you guys about one. It was Republicans who were for Trump that had children, okay? They're all behind the glass. We had like 10 messages. We couldn't budge them an inch. They were all, everything we put in front of them, they just thought was stupid, they're lying. It was just unbelievable. But what we found out is you have to have people from the states that are experiencing the harms be the ones that are talking. If it's an elected official, if it's a narrator, they simply don't believe it. And so I'm going to show you some of the messages that we actually put together. But again, the thing that we learned too is that we had to stay on point. With the talking points that resonated in Arizona, we needed to use those for every single thing that we did. Whether it was our literature, whether it was our teletown halls, we did lots of those. Debates, social media, we had to stay on message. Okay, so here's a couple of our...
What will marijuana legalization mean for Arizona children? Ask Colorado.
Marijuana use among our students soared, often in the form of edibles that look like candy.
We were promised millions in new revenues, but not $1 actually reached our classrooms.
There were phony promises then and there are phony promises now. Don't repeat our terrible mistake.
Medical marijuana is already legal and accessible for those who need it. Prop 205 goes much further, putting our children at risk. Don't make the same mistake. Vote no on Prop 205.
It's so easy to do. You're rushing and leave something where you shouldn't. That's why in states where pot is legal, vets report increases in accidental pot ingestion. In Colorado, the number of dogs sickened by marijuana has quadrupled. Pets aren't the only ones at risk. Legalization will expose kids to a drug their developing brains can't handle. Poison Control reported 4,000 children were exposed in 2015. Pot edibles look just like regular snacks. Can you tell the difference? Can she?
A couple of our commercials that we ran. And social media was huge. Again, you guys have to remember that in today's age, a lot of people aren't watching TV, they're DVRing it, they're going through the commercials, and so we knew that social media was really important. We hit this extremely hard. This is a tweet that was sent out by the president of Arizona State University, him expressing his concerns there. We had tribal messaging. There's a lady that's on the Navajo Nation that I just am so grateful to. She worked her tail off getting the message out on tribal lands. And so we actually had radio commercials that were run in the Navajo language. We did this also with the Hispanic community. We had billboards that were in Spanish. We had literature that was in Spanish. That's extremely important that you look at, different audiences.
You say that Prop 205 is about money for schools, but your campaign sign says nothing.
I'm sorry. Okay, there. I want to give a preface to this before I start. We have to make fun of the pro-marijuana people a little bit, okay? Okay, so in Prop 205, the Yes campaign, their signs said, vote yes on Prop 205, support our schools, because the money was going to go to our schools, of course. So this is an interview that was done with that's going to show with a representative from the Marijuana Policy Project, and he's asked, you guys will hear, he's asked why their sign says nothing about marijuana. So.
You say that Prop 205 is about money for schools, but your campaign sign says nothing about legalizing recreational marijuana. Why is that?
I had to, say word, hold on one second. Well, let's get on anyway. The point about Prop 205 is to heavily regulate and tax marijuana.
We made fun of that one. we put that one out on social media quite a bit, but anyway. So here are some lessons that we learned, and I know they may not apply to everybody because we are a state that has the initiative process, but they were very important for us in the battle. The first one is you have to protect yourself and your organization, okay? One of the first things that we did is we incorporated as a 501c4 so we could have liability protection and liability insurance. This is very important for us as individuals. We hired I already mentioned an HR firm, but we also hired a PAC treasurer that knew all of the intricacies of the financial reporting on the Secretary of State's office. Originally, it was Sally that was doing that, and we thought, this is going to get way too complicated. We needed to have the experts that knew how to do it properly and make sure that we were following every rule. We asked our Attorney General for a letter explaining what the law is in Arizona, so that if it was somebody that was a government employee, that they knew exactly what they could and could not do, and we had that letter as protection for us. And we also hired a law firm, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but that was extremely important for us in our fight. This is, General McCaffrey talked about, the guy with the t-shirt. Well, this is our most famous one in Arizona. His name is Dave Wisniewski. He's right now collecting signatures for it to be on the ballot again in 2018. He's with Save for Arizona. But anyway, one of the things that we also realized is a lot of times when people are collecting signatures, they are breaking laws. And so we learned that in the future, we're going to actually go and find those people that are collecting signatures, see if we can get some things on tape or audio, and have that as ammunition moving forward. Another lesson that we learned is make sure that you're there for the process when they decide the ballot language. And this is going to vary again from state to state, but in Arizona we have a process where it's a legislative hearing, and we found out about when the legislative hearing was. We found out which representatives were on that committee. We provided them with a packet of materials, and we testified at that hearing. Because again, when you have 30 pages of text that's going to go into a paragraph that people are going to vote on, you want to make sure that some of those key things are in that language. It was very important for us. Another thing that we did in the state of Arizona, you can actually pay $75 and you're in a publicity pamphlet. So it's a pamphlet that's sent to every registered voter, and there's letters about why people say that you should vote no and why you should vote yes. We came up with a list of about 60 names of people that we wanted to have a letter. We looked at, for physicians, people in recovery, parents, educators, again, all sectors represented. And if they weren't comfortable writing the letter, we had a ghost writer that helped them to craft their letter. And when that particular pamphlet came out, there were about 60 letters from people saying vote no, and the other side had about 6. So it was huge. People came up to me constantly and said, I read your letter. It was amazing, the number of people saying to vote no opposed to vote yes. So that was a huge thing that helped us. Another thing is, again, a litigation strategy. We actually filed a lawsuit against the initiative prior to the election day. We were not successful in winning that, but we had a hearing in front of a judge. And the wonderful thing about that was there was a lot of earned media. It was in the news constantly, and we could bring up a lot of the things that were in the initiative that were going to be harmful to Arizona. And so that was a great strategy for us. If we would have lost, we had a post-election strategy. We would have actually filed a suit against it, but since we won, we didn't have to go down that route. But look at that when you're talking about your state. And this is something super exciting to me right now. We realized in Arizona that our initiative process is flawed. Again, I'm all about the rights of the voter, but our initiative process is very flawed. When I talk about being in that courtroom with our original lawsuit, the judge said to the attorney for the Marijuana Policy Project for the Vote Yes campaign, she said, you're telling me if there's fraud in this that I can't tell you can't put it on the ballot? And he said, yes, ma'am, that's what I'm telling you, or yes, Your Honor, that's what I'm telling you. We have a flawed system in Arizona that we need to make stronger. So we brought some House bills, and this is through the Arizona Chamber of Commerce. One has already been passed, House Bill 2404, that Governor Ducey signed. In the state of Arizona, you can no longer pay people per signature to get something on the ballot. It's going to be huge for us. Huge for us. And then there's 2 more that are right now going through the House and Senate that we're hoping that's going to tighten up our initiative process. So look at what you need to do to protect yourself right now. So those are the 6 things, the lessons that we've learned. And I'm going to hand it over to Scott, but I just want to end by saying, you guys, I know that the fight's not over. It was like, we were so excited when we won. I was so grateful, but it was like, a couple days, and then it was like, what do we need to do now? And so we're continuing Arizonans for Responsible Drug Policy. We're going to continue. We're going to continue to educate. We're going to continue to do what we need to do to make Arizona a hard target for the future. So I'm just so grateful that, again, the citizens voted no, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to share our experience, and I'm grateful to stand for this award. So thank you so much.